Sheviis. Beit. No, Beit Gimel. One may clear away the stones until Rosh Hashanah. One may clip, prune, remove the redundants until Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yeshua says what applies to pruning and removing the redundants in the fifth year also applies to the sixth year. Rabbi Shimon says so long as I am permitted to tend a tree, I am permitted to remove the redundants. One may besmear saplings, wrap them brown, trim them, make shelters for them, and water them until Rosh Hashanah. Reb Elazar ben Sadik says, even in the seventh year, one may water the branches but not the roots. One may oil unripe figs and pierce them until Rosh Hashanah. Unripe figs of the sixth year, which have gone into the seventh year, and of the seventh year, which have gone into the eighth year, may either be boiled, oiled or pierced. Rabbi Yehuda says when the custom is to oil them, one may not oil them because it is ranked as work. Where it is not customary to oil them, one may oil them. Rabbi Shimon permits concerning a tree because one may tend a tree. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Sheviis base vav. Ein notin, ein mavrichin, ein markivin erev Sheviis. Pachos mishloshim yom lifnei Rosh Hashanah. So just wanted to get through that end of the phrase. Is that 30 basically more than from 30 days until Rosh Hashanah. In other words, the whole of Chodesh Elul. You're not allowed to plant anything. You're not allowed to propagate. That is, like what we were talking about in Kilayim about burying the vines so that they would strike out roots. Ein markivin, and you're not allowed to do any grafting either on during this period. Grafting is sometimes permitted. It's not if it's not a Kilayim kind of grafting. So imnata ohivrich ohikiv yakor, and if he went ahead and did any of these actions during the 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, yakor, he has to uproot it. It's not allowed to be kept because this is something that effectively is only it's only going to really become a permanent matzav during the Shemitah year. So even though your action happened before Shemitah, the consequence only takes effect during once Shemitah has started, and therefore it's not permitted. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kol harkava she'ena koletis l'shloshi yamim shuv ena koletis. So Rabbi Yehuda says no, it's only 3 days because for the first 3 days it's not a stable thing, but after 3 days it stabilizes, and therefore if somebody did do one of these actions, a grafting or a planting or something like that, but in more than 3 days before Rosh Hashanah, b'diavad, he's allowed to keep it. Okay, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon amrim l'shtei Shabbosos. They say that the period is 2 weeks, and that, in fact, I think is the halacha that we hold by. I believe that all of these views say that we add on lechatchila as a gezerah to add on another 30 days to whatever the shear is. So the Tanna Kama says that you have to plant everything before Chodesh Av, where Rabbi Yehuda says 3 days before Chodesh Elul, and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say basically 2 weeks before end of Chodesh Av, so that you've got the whole of Elul and 2 weeks of Av. So up until then, lechatchila you're allowed to plant.
It says that the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Tosfot Sheviis, says 30-day extension of the Shemitah year, a halakha handed down from Moshe on Sinai, is added to the time limits mentioned in the Mishna. Because according to the first Tana, one may not plant Saint grass less than 30 days before Rosh Hashanah of the seventh year, 30 days for the absorption, 30 days for the Tosfot Sheviis, according to Rabbi Yehuda, not less than 30 days before. So the halakha is like the Tanna Kama that we're saying, or
yes, no, I think we're holding like Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon. I don't actually. I don't see Kahati actually paskening over here, but in terms of every time I've heard halacha paskend about by when do you have to lay your garden or do all of your things in the pre-Shemitah year, and everyone says up until like I think the 14th of Av or something like that.
you're not getting any? There's no.
Oh no! I think Tu B'Av. might be the 16th of Av, I think, that you're allowed to plant until.
Yeah, it says, according to the first Tana, one may not plant, sink, or graft less than 60 days before Rosh Hashanah of the seventh year.
Yeah.
30 days for absorption, 30 days for Tosfos Sheviis, according to Rabbi Yehuda, not less than 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, and according to Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon, 40 days before Rosh Hashanah. Thus, most Mishnah commentators, according to Rabbi Rabbeinu Tam, however, according to Rabbeinu Tam, however, the Begorim does not refer to the Shemitah year, and the Mishnah is to be understood in its plain sense, as first explained. Thus, the only concern is the seventh year, that the plant should not strike roots in the Shemitah year.
Okay, so he's not adding. So according to Rabbeinu Tam, we're not adding a Tosefes Sheviis onto here.
Right. I was looking for a date, but there's
yeah.
nothing surprising that it's not there. Okay.
Okay. Mishna Zayin, Ha'orez v'adochan v'paragin v'ashumshamin shehishrishu lifnei Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so let's just before we go into this Mishnah right now, let's just take a step back and review something that we know, that we've said about trees, that when a tree forms its fruit, that's the year that we judge it for Trumas and Masros, and that's the year that we judge it for Shemitah. So right, that the tree and the fruit have got a different din. We said that, we spoke about that yesterday, that
about the blossom on the tree.
The blossom. So once the blossom thickens and forms and starts forming a fruit, that's called chanata, and whatever year that happens in, that's the year that it's judged in for Trumas and Masros and for Shemitah. Okay, now when it comes to vegetables, it all goes according to the picking. So if you've got lettuce or cucumbers or whatever growing in your garden, even if you planted it before Rosh Hashanah, if you picked it after Rosh Hashanah, it goes into the following year. Okay, and now what this Mishnah is coming and teaching us is that there's actually another type of plant where we judge the year according to when the plant strikes root, because it is farmed as an annual, but it's not judged like a vegetable in terms of the picking. It's judged in terms of when the plant strikes root, and those plants are orez, rice, dochan is millet, I think,
Right.
paragin, how do they translate?
Poppy.
Oh, perig, right, perig, and shumshamin is sumsum, sesame.
Sesame, right.
Right. Sheshrishu, this is about striking root. If they strike root before Rosh Hashanah, misashin l'she'avar, they go for the previous year, umatarin b'shvius. And if they're planted in the year before Sheviis, then they are not considered Shemitah produce. Be'im lav, however, if they hadn't struck root until after Rosh Hashanah, asurin b'shvius, misashin l'shana haba, and their year is the year after Rosh Hashanah. Okay, the reason why all of these things is because you could. Wait, let me see this. Wait, no. Why not? It's Asina Shavar. Sorry. Sheviis. Saw somewhere there was an explanation that the reason for this is that the produce is that it's considered as if it's ready before Rosh Hashanah, and they sometimes leave it out in the field. Where's it? Pre. Yeah, okay. It's actually in the footnote here. It says it doesn't go after the why are these things not treated like vegetables? They're basically annual crops. So why aren't they treated like other vegetables? Because sometimes nigmarim hayom v'nil katim la'achar zman. Because sometimes they become ripe now, and you leave them in the field for a long time. And even though other vegetables you go after the completion of the produce, which is when it's after gathering eder shenachtu b'chol makom achar lakita. With other vegetables, you generally harvest them as soon as the fruit is ripe. But the ones in our Mishnah, you don't harvest them necessarily when the fruit is ripe. You leave them in the field until they dry out and they don't get uniformly harvested. Therefore, um, the the Gemara Pri is considered as if it's when the plant is struck root.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Mishnah Ches, Rabbi Shimon Shazuri Omer Pol Hametri Shizera or Lazera Batchila Kiyote Behen. He says the same thing goes for Egyptian beans. If you sowed them in order to make more seeds, they weren't. This particular crop is not intended for being eaten. It's just intended to make more seeds. Then you follow the same din of when does it strike root.
No,
Uh, Okay, as in the previous Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon Omer Afunin Hagamlonim Kayotze Behinan says the same thing about the the camel beans. What are the camel riders beans? What is it? How do they translate it?
large size beans.
Broad.
Broad. It says large size beans. Likewise, likewise.
Mhm. Right. So there's
It shouldn't.
their din is like the din of the previous Mishnah.
Right.
Okay, Rabbi Elazar Omer Afunin Hagamlonim Mishetir Melu Lifnei Rosh Hashanah.
He also says
And
large size beans. Yeah.
uh, and Rabbi Elazar disagrees with Rabbi Shimon and says they have to have formed their pods before Rosh Hashanah in order to be judged as the previous year.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Right.
back to Kilayim Ches above.
I started feeding the cats the Pesach food because I ran out of the other food. So
Uh-huh.
I seem to like it. So. All right. Above. The wild axe is a kind of domesticated animal, but Rabbi Yossi says it is a kind of undomesticated animal. The dog is a kind of undomesticated animal, and Reb Meir says it is a kind of domesticated animal. The pig is a kind of domesticated animal. The wild donkey is a kind of domesticated.
Undomesticated.
The elephant and the ape are kinds of domesticated animals, and a man may draw, plow, or drive with any of them. It's interesting they consider a pig a domesticated animal. Hmm. Oh,
And
never.
what's all the nafkamina of this is that if somebody draws up a contract with somebody else and says, "I'm selling you all of my domesticated animals," which are the ones that are included?
Right.
That's one thing. Or if you take a neder from domesticated animals or something like that, then it's just a legalistic thing. There's very little nafkamina about between non-kosher, domesticated or non-domesticated animals. It's just purely a legalistic definition.
The Kalayim boy, I'm really bad today. The Kalayim prohibition applies only to wool and linen, and only wool and linen are rendered unclean by Nagayim. The priests wear for service in the temple only wool and linen. If camel's wool is sheep and sheep's wool have been hackled together, if the greater part is camel's wool is permitted, but if the greater part of sheep's wool, it is forbidden. If it is half and half, it is forbidden. And the same applies to linen and hemp hackled together. Silk and bast silk do not come under the prohibition of Kalayim, but are forbidden on account of appearances. Mattresses and pillows do not come under the prohibition of Kalayim, provided one's flesh does not touch them. There is no exemption for casual wear of Kalayim, and Kalayim may not be worn even on top of 10, not even to evade custom dues. That's funny.
Evading custom dues, by the way, that is a just to clarify. If something is legally due according to the din of the malchusa, then you have to pay it. This Lignov over here is talking about when you have some sort of bandit or a guy who's a law unto himself. He got the rights from the government to collect taxes, but he's doing more than what the government is allowing him to do. So therefore, you are allowed to try and get past him because he's he's like acting illegally himself.
Hmm.
Okay, Demai Heiches.
If one buys tevel from two places, he may tithe from one for the other, although they said one may not sell tevel except in the case of necessity. One may give tithe from a Jews for that for non-Jews, from a non-Jews for that of a Jew, for a Jews for that of a Kuthian, for a Kuthian for that of a Kuthians, and Eliezer pervades of boy. Reb Eliezer forbids from Akuthians for that of Kuthians.
Now that's right. This is according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who remember Rabbi Meir doesn't hold by Het Mechira. So
Right.
if a non-Jew has land in Eretz Yisrael, his produce is still chayav in all things. Chumas, Masters, Sheviis, everything.
A perforated pot is as the earth. If he gave truma from the earth for a perforated pot, from a perforated pot for the earth, his truma is truma. From a non-perforated pot for a perforated pot, it is truma. But he must give truma again. For a perforated pot, one for a non-perforated pot, it is truma. But may not be eaten until he separates truma and maishas from it. Okay. Good. It's interesting. They finished. The Daf Yomi finished Pesachim.
Yes.
Right.
Nice timing this year.
Right. One more day, they could have done it tomorrow for the Bakor. That's right. If someone brought bundles of vegetables, dried figs, or garlic up to the roof so that they should remain moist, they are not included in the law. All bundles of vegetables in the marketplace are considered tummy. And Reb Yehuda declares the fresh ones tahor. Said Reb Meir, why did they rule them tummy? Only because of spittle. And all flour and fine flour are the marketplace of tummy. Tummy. I'm really messing this up. All flour and fine flour in the marketplace are tameh, and sold together with them dried fruit and considered tahor. That's wrong. I did that wrong.
Yeah.
All flour and fine flour in the marketplace are tameh. Kilcha, Targis, and Tashki are tameh in all places. All eggs are presumed to be tahor except for those of merchants of liquids, but if they are sold together with them dried fruit, they are considered tahor. All fish are presumed to be tameh, and Rabbi Yehuda says concerning a slice of iltis fish, as Egyptian fish that is bought in a box, and a kulas fish of Spain, they are presumed to be tahor. Every fish brine is presumed to be tameh, and regarding all of them, an Amma Aretz is trusted to say they are tahor except for fish, because they deposit it with an Amma Aretz. Rabbi Yehuda ben Yaakov says concerning tahor.
Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Yeah?
I'm sorry.
I've got Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov.
What did I say?
You're Rabbi Yehuda.
And I didn't even have a drink yet.
Should have.
Concerning tahor fish brine into which a minute amount of water fell, it is tameh. There are 7 beverages: dew, water, wine, olive oil, blood, milk, and bee honey. Wasp honey is tahor and permitted for consumption. Okay. Going. Oh, we have a few more. Okay.
Kalim. Chafes ches.
A bin whose upper part was removed is tummy on account of the lower part. If the lower part was removed, it is tummy on account of the upper part. If both the upper and lower parts were removed, Rabbi Yehuda rules the tummy on account of the sides, but the comments say it's tahor. A stone mason's seat can become tummy with midrash tuma. Regarding a block that one painted with red paint and painted with saffron dye and planed, Rabbi Kiva rules a tummy, but the Kakamed rule a tahor until one carves it. Regarding a woven basket or a reed basket that was filled with straw or flocking, if one prepared them for sitting upon, they are tahor. But if one wove the baskets with reed grass or cord, they're tameh. A privy stool can become tameh with both midrash tuma and corpse tuma. If it is separated, the leather can become tameh with midrash tuma, and the iron can become tameh with corpse tuma. A traskel whose cover is of leather can become tameh with both midrash tuma and corpse tuma. If it's separated, the leather can become tummy with midrash tuma, and the traskel is completely tahor. Benches of a bathhouse whose 2 legs are of wood are tameh, and if one leg of wood and one is of stone, it's tahor. Regarding the boards of a bathhouse that one smooth, Rabbi Kiva rules them tameh, and the Kakamed rule them tahor, since they are only made for water to run underneath them. If a fumigator has a receptacle for garments, is tameh, and a fumigator made like a beehive is tahor. Okay.
All right, so I just wanted to remember that particular point, that distinction of the bench that's got one leg of stone and one of wood. The stone one is considered the ikar, and remember, stone just does not become tameh.
Uh-huh.
You can have if you have a stone bench, even if a zav sits on it, it doesn't become tameh. Okay. Right, Marcos. Gimel.
person who is tame, who eats only holy foods, who enters the temple while tame. One who eats food, blood, leftover sacrificial meat, pickle, or sacrificial foods which have become tame. One who slaughters a sacrificial animal or offers it outside the temple. One who eats chametz on Pesach. One who eats or performs work on Yom Kippur. One who compounds anointing oil, compounds incense, and anoints with the anointing
Hold on,
oil.
which Mishnah are you on?
This is,
I think you're on. It's Gimel Gimel. I think you're on base there.
you're right. I just want to make sure that you remember these
Yeah,
things.
I appreciate you keeping me on my toes there.
Sorry, wish I was on my toes. One who eats Bikurim before the recital over them, or one who eats Koche Kochim outside the curtain, Kochim Kalam, or Maisa Sheni outside the wall, and one who breaks the bone of a Pesach offering that is Tahor, and costs the penalty of 40 lashes. But one who leaves over meat of one that is Tahor, and one who breaks bone of one that is Tameh, does not incur the penalty of 40 lashes. I don't remember. Um, I mean, there's a pasuk that says that you shall not break a bone in the Pesach offering. But if you're eating a piece of meat that's on the bone and it breaks by accident, you're still responsible for this.
It's you're talking about a. I mean, let's say you're chewing something off the bone and the bone breaks in your hand. I mean, well, you're not going to penalize anyone for that.
Right.
You can't get lashes for it unless it was a deliberate act where he was warned.
Right. If you
But
take a bone and break it in half, then that's
but if it happened, what do you do? I mean, it's not a kares. You don't have to bring a chatas for doing it by mistake.
right. Okay.
Um,
Okay. Okay. All right. If one takes a mother bird while on her young, Rabbi Yehuda says it incurs the penalty of lashes, and he need not send her away. The Comment, however, say he must send her away, and he does not incur the penalty of lashes. This is the rule. Any negative commandment that has in it a positive commandment bears no liability.
yeah, this is a very important klal that we see in this mission over here. Is that when you have a mitzvah, a lav hanitak la'aseh, right? That's a negative commandment that is corrected by a positive commandment. So here we have one that's in dispute, but let's take one that's not in dispute. For example, stealing. Now, stealing is an active thing, and normally you would say that person who stole and he was warned, he should get lashed. But he doesn't get lashed. Why? Because stealing can be corrected, because there's a mitzvah of Hashavas HaGazela. If you did steal something, now you have a new mitzvah, which is to return what you stole. Okay, so once there's a mitzvah now that comes out of it. Now he has to return it. Therefore there are no lashes on it. Okay. Now the argument in our Mishnah is about the shiloach haken. Okay, sending away the mother bird.
Right.
Rabbi Yehuda says there's not once he's already taken the mother bird on the young, he's already been over on the mitzvah, and there's nothing else that he can do, even if he hasn't killed her yet. Once he took her, he's already been over on the mitzvah, and now he gets lashes. Whereas Chachamim say no, now he has a mitzvah. The shiloach haken is still binding on him all the time that he hasn't killed it. He can send it away still, and therefore he doesn't get lashes on it,
Okay.
even if he doesn't send it away.
One who makes a bald spot on his head, or rounds the corner of his head, or destroys the corner of his beard, or inflicts upon himself a single gash over someone who died, he is liable. If he inflicted one gash over 5 people who died, or 5 gashes over 1 person who died, he is liable for each one. On the head, on the head 2, 1 on each side. On the beard, 2 on each side and 1 below.
Right. So this is talking about shaving a beard.
Right.
The 5 corners of your face where you're not allowed to touch a razor onto,
Right.
and for each one of them is a separate a set of lashes. Each one is its own mitzvah.
Rabbi Eliezer says if he removed it all at once, he is liable only once. If he is not liable unless he removes it with a razor, Rabbi Eliezer says even if he plucked it with a tweezers or with a plane, he is liable. What about I mean they don't know what they're doing. I mean they do know what they're doing, but people who like hurt themselves, they cut themselves and stuff like that. That they use a razor or use a sharp implement.
Well, first of all, it's usher to do that. You say you're not allowed, but I think you probably won't want to give lashes to somebody who's like trying to cut themselves. You probably want to prescribe a psychologist or something. But But in terms of using a razor, the issue of using a razor is only for men on those particular places on their face.
Right. Okay.
But I mean, you're allowed to use a razor on other parts. So, for example, I mean, I go to my barber, and when he cuts my hair, he takes a razor and cleans up the back of my head, and cleans
Right.
up the back of my neck. There's no problem with
Right. And you trust him.
that. Apparently, I do
Those things are always
with my
scary.
life.
Those things are always scary. Daled, daled.
Yeah.
We may not hollow out a lamp because one thereby makes a vessel. We may not. We may make charcoal on Yontav, nor. Oh, sorry. Nor may we make charcoal on Yontav, nor may we cut a wick in two. Yehuda says one may cut it with a flame for two lamps.
Okay. Yeah. What the trick is that Rabbi Yehuda is saying is that let's say you've got two oil lamps and you've only got one wick,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to have two candles. Now you can't take that wick and cut it in half. But Rabbi Yehuda says he has an answer for you. Take the two candles and put them next to each other, and take the wick and drape it across the two of them, and light it in the middle.
That's what we have to do sometimes for Havdalah, depending on when the Yontav.
Yeah, but you hear what he's doing. Like
Yeah,
as
yeah,
soon you light it in the middle and it splits them in two. Now you've got two. Now you've got two candles. And
right, right. We may not break a shard, nor cut a piece of paper to roast salted fish on it, nor may we take out an oven or a double oven, but we may level it, nor may we position two barrels near each other in order to set a pot upon them. Nor may we support a pot with a piece of wood, and the same applies to a door. We may not drive an animal with a stick on Yom Tov, but Reb Elazar, Reb Ben Shimon permits this. Reb Eliezer says a person who may take a sliver from that which is before him in order to clean his teeth, and one may gather hay or splinters from the courtyard and kindle fire, because everything which is in the courtyard is considered prepared. But the comments say one may gather from that which is before him and a kindle. Okay.
okay, I can. Shkoyach.
Calling to you. Thank you. I'm sorry I was slipping today. I just
Listen, better you should have a slip of the tongue than a slip of the feet.
depends on what I'm saying. So I don't know. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you.
You too.
See you tomorrow, Mr. Shah. Tomorrow, I don't know if I'll be a little later because of the Siyum.
Oh, right. Okay, I'll keep in touch.
Yeah, I'll be there. Don't worry, I'll be there. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.